Hey, hey, my beautiful people. It's good to see y'all. How y'all doing out there? I'm checking in on a somber note. Um, what you're about to see, what I was attempting to show you earlier in the premiere, are the clippings that I found about this shooting. Um, Disturbing. Little kids, my son's age, talking about how they covered themselves in their friend's blood and played dead, and just listen to this man go on a rampage through their school while the cops were outside. I don't know what the worst part of that story is. Um, it's going to talk about the Justice Department a little bit and how they see things. You'll see a little bit of the footage from outside of the school. They know they messed up, but of course they're going to CYA, right? You know what that means. They're going to cover it as best they can. They waited an hour for Border Patrol to come and start getting those kids out of windows and risking their lives, because it seems that the local PD was just a little too scared. Straight up, I can't think of any other reason why they did not go charging into that building, talking about they needed tactical equipment and backup. So I don't know what more I can say that they're not going to tell you. Just wanted to show my face because I miss y'all and I love y'all. And I don't like delivering this kind of news without some sort of a heartfelt tone with it. You know, the media just kind of throws it all out there. But these were babies. These were somebody's babies. Even the teachers. And it could have been any one of ours. 19 babies. An 18-year-old just strolled right in their school, and so much wrong with this picture. But I want y'all to tell me what you think in the comments, in the chat. And if I can make it over to John Hughes, I know he's live on this topic as well. Maybe still by the time I'm done with all this. I had some editing to do. If not, we'll go live soon.
Been talking to the family of 11-year-old Mia Cirio, who was wounded in the fourth grade classroom. Mia wants the world to know what she saw, what she lived through. But Mia is so scared of men right now because of what happened that she only feels comfortable speaking with women. She also did not want to go on camera. She did agree to speak with my partner, CNN producer Nora News. Nora, you were in with Mia and her mother. I want to make clear her mother was there the whole time. What did she tell you?
So 11-year-old Mia Cirio was in that fourth grade classroom that we've heard so much about with Miss Garcia and Miss Morales. She said they were watching Lilo and Stitch because it was the end of the school year. They'd finished their lessons. And she said one of her teachers got an email that there was a shooter in the building and went to the door, and he was right there. And they made eye contact.
The shooter made eye contact with the
teacher, and then he shot out the window in the door. And then Mia says it just happened all so fast. He backed the teacher into the classroom, and he made eye contact with the teacher again, looked her right in the eye, and said, "Good night," and then shot her and killed her.
He said good night before he shot her.
Good night. And then it happened pretty fast after that as well. He started open firing in the classroom. He hit the other teacher, a lot of Mia's friends. At that point, Mia was hit by fragments of the bullets. You could even see them yesterday. I mean, on her back, on her shoulders, the back of her head.
The shooter then, she says, went into the adjoining classroom.
Yeah, so he went through this door to the adjoining classroom, and at that point, Mia could hear screams. She heard a lot more gunfire. And then she said she heard music. She thinks it was the gunman that put it on. he started blasting sad music. And I asked her, like, what was that? Like, what kind of music? What do you mean by that? And she just said, it sounded like I want people to die music.
Oh, she said she heard music. She said it sounded like I want people to die music. What did Mia do then?
So she had a friend next to her that she was pretty sure was already dead and was laying on the ground bleeding out. And she put her hands in her friend's blood and then smeared it, she said, all over her body. She wanted to look like she was dead. She was scared that the gunman was going to come back through that adjoining door back into the classroom, and she wanted to be able to play dead.
She also told you that she called 911.
Yeah, so after she smeared the blood all over her body, she and a friend went and were able to take the phone off of one of the teachers who had already been killed. And they called 911, and they were actually able to make contact with the dispatcher. And they talked to a dispatcher for a little while and told them what was going on inside. And Mia kept telling me that she kept saying, we're in trouble, like, please come, we're in trouble.
One of the interesting things you told me is that Mia said to you that she felt like it all lasted for 3 hours.
Yeah, she was like, oh yeah, I was in there for 3 hours. And her mom said, well, sweetheart, I think it was closer to 1 hour, but I'm sure it felt that way.
And what did Mia think the police were doing during this time?
She said she thought the police just hadn't gotten there yet, that somehow they just weren't there yet. And she said, she'd been pretty stoic up until this point in the interview. And this was actually when she started getting emotional and started crying. She said, I heard the grown-ups later say the police were outside and that they weren't coming in. And she got emotional talking to me about this and said, why didn't they come in? Why didn't they save us? Why the police were outside? Like, she just couldn't, it was clear in her 11-year-old brain, in my brain, why they wouldn't come in and help and save her.
So again, you spent some time with her and her mother. She's obviously just been through the worst thing, hopefully, that she'll ever go through in her entire life. How did she seem to you? How did she look to you?
Honestly, not great. She seems completely traumatized. Physically, she's mostly okay. She has these bullet fragments all over the back of her shoulders and her back and the back of her head. She said overnight a lot of her hair fell out in just kind of big clumps from where the bullet fragments had hit. So she's bummed about that. But just completely traumatized. And her parents are trying to get her some kind of therapy help. And they'll probably have to drive her to San Antonio for that. And so they're actually starting a GoFundMe page to pay specifically for that therapy cost. She said she keeps seeing the bodies on the ground. And so that therapy is going to be really important. So that GoFundMe is on the screen.
She's been through so much. She saw her teacher killed before her eyes. She saw her friends killed before her eyes. I simply can't imagine. And then one other thing you told me that just gives us a sense of her state of mind right now. You have an alarm on your cell phone. Your alarm went off accidentally on your cell phone while you were talking to her. What happened?
I felt so bad. It just was an accident, and she clearly was kind of triggered by that. And her mom said, that's been happening a lot. They were at a car wash yesterday and went to vacuum out the car, and it completely set her off. She's not sleeping right now. She's, the whole interview, she brought a blanket with her, and the whole interview she just was covering herself in this blanket, and it was hot. But it felt like she just was trying to keep herself covered.
And just to be clear, one last time, she really wanted to talk. She didn't want to talk to a man, but she wanted to get her story out there. Why?
She kept saying that she wants to try to prevent this from this happening to other kids, that she thought that if she talked to someone, if she did an interview, that maybe people would realize what it was really like to be in a school shooting, and that maybe something would change and other kids wouldn't get hurt. And I kept saying, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this interview. You're in charge. This is your decision. But she kept saying, no, I really want to do this.
All right. Nora News, thank you for speaking with her. Thank you for telling us what she said. Please tell the family that we're thinking of them, and we appreciate them reaching out. So thank you. Right, a lot of new information there. We had not heard really the perspective of what it was like to be inside the classroom while it was happening. And frankly, it is just horrific.
Now has video of the school building just minutes after the gunman entered. As the Justice Department launches a review of the police response, Marcus Moore starts us off there in Uvalde with the very latest. Good morning, Marcus.
Well, Lindsay, good morning. This grieving community is searching for healing and demanding change after Tuesday's attack. And the first funerals are set to begin this morning as new images and details emerge of the chaos of that day, along with new moves by federal officials. As the Justice Department starts to review law enforcement's response to the deadly school shooting at Robb Elementary, new video obtained by ABC News shows the terrifying moments after that gunman opened fire.
Okay, they're getting the kids out.
Police officers breaking windows, trying to evacuate the children, and the video also capturing what appears to be dispatch audio, sharing with officers in the field. 911 operators are on the phone with a student trapped in a classroom that the gunman had entered.
We do have a child on room 12. Are we able to, is there anybody inside of the building at this? Tyler is advising he is in the room full of victims at this moment.
Texas law enforcement detailing those chilling calls from the children.
She identified herself and whispered she's in room 112. At 12:10, she called back. In room 12, advised her multiple dead. Again at 12:16, she's called back and said there was 8 to 9 students alive.
ABC News learning the gunman was inside the school for 77 gut-wrenching minutes before law enforcement breached the locked door with a key and killed the shooter. The investigation revealing the school district police chief wrongly believed the situation was no longer an active shooter, but instead a barricaded subject, had ordered tactical teams not to enter the classroom.
It was a wrong decision, period. There's no excuse for that.
Sources say eventually federal officers defying local authorities, going in and fatally shooting the gunman. Now 9-year-old survivor Daniel Garza, who lost his cousin in the shooting, revealing what it was like as they waited to be rescued. His teacher Elsa Avila, injured in the attack, shot 2 times, but locked the door before the gunman could get in.
She ran to the door quickly. She got her key. She broke the key in, and then she was running because she got shot, and then she just dropped on the floor, and then she was playing dead.
Daniel recounting the moment he saw the gunman.
Where he's staring at people through a little window.
And what was he doing?
He was just standing there with his gun, tapping on the window.
As the nation mourns the 21 lives lost, President Biden and First Lady visiting Uvalde Sunday to pay tribute. The president confronted by a frustrated crowd. The crowd chanting, "Do something." The president responding, "We will." Democratic leaders now promising serious negotiations about gun control are underway, involving a bipartisan group.
Inside this room, we're talking about red flag laws. We're talking about strengthening and expanding the background check system, if not universal background checks. We're talking about safe storage. And yes, we're also talking about mental health resources and more security dollars for schools.
And that is what people want. Amidst the grief in this small town, people have been imploring lawmakers to address the issues and do whatever it takes to find some solution to this as this community tries to heal.
All right, Marcus, thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Aaron Katursky for more on what this new video shows and the Justice Department review of the police response now. Aaron, good morning.
Whit, good morning to you. The video, I think, is important for what it shows, but also what you hear. You see officers frantically trying to evacuate children from the school. They're pulling them from windows. They're running them to safety. But you also overhear the officers being told that 911 operators are on the phone with children who are with the shooter in the classrooms that are full of victims. The Justice Department is going to be reviewing all of this, including what's depicted in the video here. This is not a criminal investigation. The idea is to understand the decisions made and why. The same kind of thing was done after the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando, and a big takeaway there was the need for police to take quick action even if they have no reliable information. In Uvalde, the video suggests that there were attempts to get officers on the scene critical information about what was happening in the classrooms. Again, raising the question, why did the commander believe that the children were no longer in danger? If there were mistakes, Whit, the Justice Department does not want them repeated.
And Aaron, something else you're watching here, copycat fears keeping law enforcement across the country on alert, and another incident now.
This one involving a 10-year-old down in Florida who was arrested for making a written threat to conduct a mass shooting. Sheriff's deputies in Lee County linked this 5th grader to a threatening text message. They are taking no chances now with
Aaron Katersky for us. Thanks.
The home of the crazed shooter who carried out the elementary school massacre. And it's also where he shot his first victim, his own grandmother. She is in stable condition today.
There's blood all over.
Oh my gosh, it's all the way up here.
The killer's grandfather showed reporter Allie Bradley the disturbing scene.
There was a pool of blood here.
Really?
We are now seeing the killer's last selfie and his chilling final message. I'ma go shoot up at elementary school right now. Salvador Ramos sent the warning to a 15-year-old German girl who goes by the screen name Cici. He met her just 2 weeks ago on a little-known social network app for teens based in France called Uvalde. Referring to his grandmother, he wrote, I'ma do something to her right now. She's on the phone with AT&T about my phone. It's annoying. 6 minutes later, he messaged, I just shot my grandma in the head. The German girl is speaking out today, telling the New York Times, maybe I could have changed the outcome. I just could never guess that he'd actually do this. Ramos worked at the drive-thru window of this Wendy's and told co-workers he was saving to buy guns. He was rude, creepy, and scruffy, says a former co-worker. He bought a top-of-the-line version of the AR-15 as seen in these YouTube videos. Ramos legally purchased it online. The receipt shows he paid $2,024.28. He also bought a handgun, ammo, and body armor. Former FBI mass shooting expert Catherine Schweitz says Ramos might have been stopped if warning signs had been reported.
One of the more telling things for me is that some of the people who are coming forward and saying, I saw this with him, I saw this change in his behavior, I saw him start to spend more time with guns. We can gather a lot of information about this young man now, but it would have been nice if we gathered it before he started shooting.
The whole nation is grappling with grief. CBS Morning's co-anchor Tony DeCopel struggled to keep his emotions in check.
Avery was an honor roll student. It's just really hard here. And we're all going to pack up. And eventually we'll go home. But this community is going to be living with this forever.
Jimmy Kimmel fought back tears.
There have been 27 school shootings so far this year in this country, and it's May. How does this make sense?
I just went to the window to go see what was going on. I saw a police officer, and then I heard more of the gunshots.
10-year-old Gemma Lopez survived the unimaginable. The Robb Elementary School 4th grader was in her classroom Tuesday morning when an 18-year-old gunman armed with an AR-15 style rifle began shooting up the connecting classroom next door.
A bullet came through the wall. It went in between Jalissa and Stacy. It went past my arm and hit the table.
Lopez and her classmates were watching the movie Jungle Cruise. It was supposed to be a fun day, with the end of the school year on the horizon. Soon, it was about survival. Her teacher turned off the lights and told the students to hide.
We're quiet under the table. I was crying just a little bit.
Lopez says police evacuated their classroom. She says she ran and never looked back.
I was just scared because I thought he would come in our room and shoot everybody.
Sadly, she would later learn her best friend, 10-year-old Eliana Cruz Torres, was among the 19 students and 2 teachers who were killed. Like many family members who first arrived on scene, Lopez's grandmother was desperate to get inside.
I don't know what to do. I mean, I wanted to jump the fence and see what's going on.
Witness video from the day of the shooting shows frantic parents pacing outside Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, begging police officers to go inside and confront the gunman.
You know that there are kids, right?
They're little kids. They don't know how to defend themselves.
It's not exactly clear when, during the course of the police response, the video was recorded, but we do know from DPS it was approximately 1 hour from the time police encountered the shooter to the time he was killed. A tactical team breaching the classroom where 19 fourth-grade students and 2 teachers were killed.
That long. I think that's terrible. That's terrible. They should have done something.
At a press briefing Thursday afternoon, the Texas Department of Public Safety laid out an updated timeline, reversing some of the information that had been previously reported. Wednesday, Fox News and others spoke to DPS officials who said the shooter and a school resource officer exchanged fire. But on Thursday, Lieutenant Victor Escalon with DPS said there was no officer on the campus and the shooter walked into an unlocked door on the west side of the school with no resistance. Police eventually did arrive about 10 to 15 minutes after the shooter crashed his grandmother's truck near the school and fired on 2 people at a nearby funeral home.
They hear gunfire, they take rounds. They move back, get cover.
They saw the gunman enter a joint classroom through 2 open doors, but instead of pursuing,
They don't make entry initially because of the gunfire they're receiving. So we have officers calling for additional resources. Everybody that's in the area, tactical teams. We need equipment. We need specialty equipment.
An hour later, a Border Patrol tactical team arrived with protective gear and a shield. It's unclear how many children who were shot early on may have survived had authorities gotten into the classroom sooner. And as this investigation continues, more tragic news from the aftermath of the shooting. Thursday, the family of Irma Garcia, one of 2 teachers killed, announced her husband, Joe, suffered a fatal heart attack. Their family posting online that the grief of losing his high school sweetheart killed him. They leave behind 4 children, the youngest 13 years old.
Here you go.
Meanwhile, the community continues to stop by the school and pay their respects. Some parents of the victims, including the father of one 10-year-old girl, insisting police should have done more.
A lot of the parents were arguing with the police. Y'all need to go in, y'all need to go do your jobs.
And as we come back out here live at the town square, you may be able to see in the distance there that folks are beginning to light candles and placing them in front of the 21 white crosses that are honoring the lives of those 19 students and 2 teachers who died. Now, it's worth noting that there are numerous reports of several parents who had been directly confronting law enforcement outside of the school, begging them to go inside. The Wall Street Journal reporting that one woman said that she actually was handcuffed by some U.S. Marshals on scene, but eventually jumped over the fence, went inside the school and got her kids herself. A spokesman for the U.S. Marshal's office denies those claims. Steve.
All right, Alex, we've been talking a little bit about the protocols for a school shooter, active shooter, that the protocols now say you got to just go in and take him out. Earlier today, you spoke with a retired police officer about how law enforcement handled the situation. What was his take on all this and what happened?
Yeah, he's a retired police officer and also a firearms instructor who is now a lecturer to other police departments. And he tells me that, you know, based on the information that he knows, he says it's very difficult to stop something like an AR-15 rifle with a service weapon, the pistol, the gun that would be given to a police officer that they would normally carry with them at the time of an encounter like that. Still, though, he went on to say that he believes that the tactical unit did absolutely everything they could as fast as they could to get inside of that classroom and to keep the situation from getting any worse. Of course, that's of little comfort to the parents who lost loved ones.
All right, one bit of confusion still from your story, actually, the news conference information. In that news conference, we were told first responding officers heard gunfire, that they saw gunfire, and they did not make initial entry. Is there clarity about if they were actually being shot at, or were they hearing the attacker shooting, maybe shooting victims? Do we know?
Right, well, according to the Uvalde police chief who put out a statement this afternoon, he says that the officers, his officers engaged the gunman inside the doorway there of the school. And actually, those 2 Uvalde police officers did suffer gunshot wounds and then retreated back outside of the building. And then again, what we found out later on was that additional officers were called, as well as the tactical team that ultimately breached the classroom about an hour from the time that that suspect crashed his truck near the school grounds.
when he went in the classroom, he said, "You're all gonna die. He just started shooting."
This morning, a chilling account for the first time of what went on inside that classroom, where multiple children and 2 teachers were fatally shot.
I was playing dead, so he was shooting.
10-year-old Samuel Salinas, one of the few survivors from his class, now recovering after an injury to his leg.
He shot my teacher, and then he shot the kids. I think he was aiming at me, like the thing, and then he, like, I guess, like, one of the chairs were there, so I blocked it, and, like, pieces in my leg.
Most of his friends and classmates not making it out alive.
I kind of don't feel safe going to school, and I feel hot, and sometimes at night I have nightmares too.
Also inside that classroom, 10-year-old Tess Mata. Tess adored her big sister Faith, loved making TikToks, and kept people laughing.
She put a smile on everybody's face every time she was dancing. She was the biggest smile ever.
Evadulia Orta's son, Rogelio Torres, also one of the victims.
Losing that little piece of my heart, I lost my son.
The mother of 4 says Rogelio was loving, happy, and liked to help others.
I think about him, what happened that day, what was going on in that classroom that he was in. He was crying out for me or something. I'm just like, what was his last? What he saw last.
And Ellie Garcia, she was known to love Encanto and her abuelita, Nelda Lugo, who says every time she saw her granddaughter, she would run to her and give her hugs.
Hi, Grandma, I love you.
And also being remembered, Nevai Bravo and Leila Salazar, and Alexander Rubio, or Lexi, was an all-A honor student. Her mother calling her beautiful and smart, sharing on Facebook. We told her we loved her and would pick her up after school. We had no idea this was goodbye. And this morning, unimaginable tragedy compounded. Just days after teacher Irma Garcia was gunned down, her husband Joe Garcia dying of a heart attack. The two were about to celebrate their 25th wedding anniversary. One of his final moments, laying flowers at the love of his life's memorial. They now leave behind 4 children, seen here overnight at a mass for the family, held in the pastor's embrace. One family I spoke with says their son is gradually starting to talk about what happened inside that classroom, and as difficult as it is for him to talk about it, it is excruciating as a parent to listen what their child had to go through.
God bless them. 19 children and 2 teachers are dead after an 18-year-old gunman opened fire inside a joined classroom. But the suspect's rampage started at his home, where he shot his grandmother.
First thing that happened was the gunman shot his grandmother in the face. She then contacted police. The gunman fled, and as he was fleeing, he had an accident just outside of the elementary school, and he ran into the school.
He then barricaded himself inside the classroom, armed with AR-15 style rifles, wearing tactical gear. He would exchange fire. The question of motive remains. Police piecing together the suspect's digital footprint. We know he was active on social media, messaging a teen girl living in Germany just before the shooting. The chilling texts include, quote, "Shoot up an elementary school, then this. I just shot my grandmother. I'm going to shoot up an elementary school right now." That last message sent at 6:21 p.m. German time, which would have been 11:21 in Uvalde, Texas. 11 minutes later, police received their first call of a shooting at Robb Elementary School. He posted on Facebook and tagged another girl on Instagram in a photo showing 2 AR-15 style rifles.
The first post was to the point of, he said, "I'm going to shoot my grandmother." The second post was, "I shot my grandmother." The third post, maybe less than 15 minutes before arriving at the school, was, "I'm going to shoot an elementary school."
And we learned the gunman turned 18 a little more than a week ago. So in the days following that, he purchased those 2 AR-15 style rifles and 375 rounds of ammunition.
A med aide was rushing into Robb Elementary School to help
when he found out his own little girl, Amory, was shot to death.
This one little girl was just covered in blood, head to toe. Like, I thought she was injured. I asked her what was wrong, and she said she's okay. She was hysterical, saying that they shot her best friend, that they killed her best friend, and she's not breathing, and she was trying to call the cops. And I asked the little girl the name, and she told me, she said Amory.
Felix and Kimberly Rubio were just with their daughter Lexi at school minutes before she was gunned down.
I just want my baby.
Among the victims, 10-year-old Rogelio Torres. His family anxiously waited for 12 hours to learn if he survived. He didn't make it. 10-year-old cousins Jackie Cazares and Annabelle Rodriguez also shot to death. They were both in 4th grade and in the same class. Another set of cousins, JC Carmelo Luvanos and Jaila Nicole Sulguerdo, taken from their loved ones. 4th grade teacher Eva Mireles credited for going above and beyond to help her students.
It was more than anybody else has ever poured into my child. I've just never seen anyone quite so dedicated.
Mireles' daughter posting this note on Twitter: "My sweet mommy, I will miss you forever." Mireles' co-teacher Irma Garcia also gunned down. And 10-year-old Javier Lopez's mother had just attended his awards ceremony hours before the shooting. One of the youngest victims, 8-year-old Uzziah Garcia. His grandpa says he was the sweetest little boy that I've ever known. 2 funeral homes in Uvalde said they will not be charging families for funerals.